Wow, stories.
Am I the idiot for telling my partner to grow up and face our problems instead of running to his mom? My boyfriend and I have been together for about 7 years. We have one child, 4-year-old, which isn't necessarily relevant here, but figured it's worth noting since we've had to do a lot of growing up. Slash, not a lot of normal and fun 20-something-year-old stuff. When we first started dating, we could have intimacy for hours. I mean, we were young and in love, still are. But now we're mostly boring and we were just doing whatever we wanted. We didn't live together, so it was always so fun having sleepovers and seeing each other. I mean, you get it. The honeymoon phase is a dream. Over the last couple of years, our quality time together, just the two of us, has really dwindled. I'm the type to really want to be connected. I want emotional intimacy so that I can feel intimacy. I want all the intimacy. But we're busy, both working full-time and balancing family, work, kid stuff. It's hard and stressful, and we're happy, but we're not connecting. He works weekends when I'm home. I work all week while he's home, 2 weekdays. We just seem to keep missing each other. As far as intimacy goes, we definitely have it, but not as often as we'd both like. Him especially, I'm sure. And when we do, it's always quickies. A few days ago, we discussed this, and it got almost intense. It was after we had intimacy, and he said it was a turnoff that I call them quickies. Want to have a quickie? And that he thinks I just don't like to have intimacy because I like to keep it short. For me, this couldn't be further from the truth. I'd rather do it quick than not at all, and we're both exhausted. He said we used to do it for hours, that we should be doing it like that all the time. And the more we talked about it, the more upset I got. He said we don't do it enough. I say it's once a week. He says once every 2. But I digress. I told him I'd be more willing to do it more often and more connected if I felt that connection still. We never spend any time together, even after our child is asleep. Haven't been on a date in 2 years. And the only time he tries to spend with me, he's usually trying to initiate, so it doesn't feel the same. There were some harsh words, blaming each other, and it just all feels so silly. I'd say we have intimacy for 20, 30 minutes. Not nearly a real quickie, but it feels like it's not enough. He's not willing to accept that I'd be interested more often if we were spending time together. And I'm not willing to say, sure, let's have intimacy for hours, even though I have to get up at 5 a.m. and have hundreds of responsibilities. I just feel like I'm at a loss, and it doesn't seem reasonable. We've barely spoken since the whole exchange, and I feel like maybe this is bigger. Maybe I'm just not enough anymore. I don't even really understand what he was getting at. I want to, though. How long are you guys having intimacy? How often? And how can I approach this try to meet him in the middle? We're still young. I don't want to feel like this in our relationship. I just want to feel like us again. But I don't think the answer is having intimacy for hours. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. With you mentioning that you haven't been on a date for 2 years, I think you guys probably should start planning alone time for each other. Whether it's a day, an hour, one time out of the week, every 2 weeks, etc. Whatever works for you both. I'm assuming you guys have different love languages, and I think you probably should delve into that more, to feel the spark again. It sounds like your schedules don't even align with each other. Is there a way you two could compromise each other's schedules, so that way you two can have more days off together? Comment 2. Intimacy is a connection for many men, so this becomes a vicious circle. You want connection to have intimacy, and he wants intimacy to have connection. He will have to accept that intimacy marathons are a thing of the past. But he will need to know that this isn't because you're less sexually interested in him. This is hard to communicate if you're having intimacy once every fortnight. And at that rate, it's difficult for him to feel the connection he needs in order to show you the connection you want. Someone needs to budge to break the impasse. Now, for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for reading. So, a lot has happened in the past 2 weeks since I last shared what was going on with my boyfriend and me. After our intense conversation, things were pretty tense between us. We were barely speaking and the atmosphere at home was awkward. I decided to take the first step and suggested we go to couples therapy. He was hesitant at first, but eventually he agreed. We had our first session last week and it was eye-opening. The therapist helped us see that our issues were more about communication and less about the actual frequency or duration of intimacy. She pointed out that we both had unmet needs and that we needed to find a way to meet in the middle. During the session, my boyfriend admitted that he felt neglected and unappreciated. He said that he missed the days when we were more spontaneous and carefree. I realized that I had been so focused on our responsibilities and routines that I had forgotten to make time for us as a couple. It was a hard pill to swallow, but it made sense. I also shared my feelings of wanting more emotional intimacy and how I felt like we were just going through the motions. The therapist suggested that we start by scheduling regular date nights, even if it's just at home after our child goes to bed. We decided to give it a try. Last Friday, we had our first at-home date night. We put our child to bed, ordered takeout, and watched a movie together. It felt nice to just relax and enjoy each other's company without any pressure. We didn't have intimacy that night, but it felt like a step in the right direction. The next day, my boyfriend surprised me by arranging for his mom to watch our child so we could go out for dinner. It was our first real date in 2 years, and it was amazing. We talked, laughed, and reconnected in a way we hadn't in a long time. But then, something unexpected happened. During dinner, my boyfriend ran into an old friend from high school. They started chatting, and I could see the excitement in his eyes. It turns out, this friend had recently gone through a divorce and was in town for a few days. My boyfriend invited him over for a drink the next evening, and I agreed, thinking it would be nice for him to catch up with an old friend. The next evening, his friend came over, and they spent hours reminiscing about the past. I joined them for a while, but I started to feel like a third wheel. I excused myself and went to bed, leaving them to their conversation. The next morning, my boyfriend seemed distant again. I asked him what was wrong, and he said that talking to his friend had made him realize how much he missed his old life. He said he felt like he had lost a part of himself since becoming a father and that he didn't know how to get it back. This hit me hard. I felt like I had been doing everything I could to make our relationship work. And now he was telling me that he missed his old life. I didn't know what to say, so I just listened. He said he needed some time to think and that he was going to stay with his mom for a few days. I was devastated, but I agreed, hoping that some time apart would help him clear his head. While he was gone, I had a lot of time to think. I realized that I had been so focused on our relationship and our child that I had forgotten to take care of myself. I decided to start doing things that made me happy, like reading, going for walks, and spending time with friends. It felt good to focus on myself for a change, and it gave me a new perspective on our relationship. When my boyfriend came back, he seemed more relaxed. He said that he had done a lot of thinking, and that he realized he didn't want to go back to his old life. He said he loved me and our child, and that he wanted to make things work. We had a long talk about our future, and what we both needed to feel happy and fulfilled. We agreed to keep going to therapy and to keep making time for each other. But before I tell you more about our plans, there's something else I need to share. While my boyfriend was staying with his mom, I found an old journal of his. I know I shouldn't have read it, but curiosity got the best of me. In it, he had written about his fears and insecurities, including his fear of not being a good enough partner and father. It broke my heart to read, but it also made me realize how much pressure he was putting on himself. I decided not to tell him that I had read it, but it gave me a new understanding of his struggles. We're still working through our issues, but things are starting to look up. We've had a few more date nights, and we're trying to be more open and honest with each other. It's not easy, but I feel like we're on the right track. I'm hopeful that we can get back to a place where we both feel happy and connected.